This anime is new, and you'll really enjoy the story. It's about a boy named Kanon, born into a noble family. He was blind from childhood. However, in this world, it's believed that children who were heroes in their past lives, or who lost a body part while performing a good deed, or who had a mark permanently left on their body, follow them into their next lives. Such people are highly respected. In the kingdom where Kanon was born, no such special child had been born in the last 100 years. So everyone knows that Kanon is special. But Kanon's life has always been filled with depression. He couldn't see anything, and everyone around him looked at him with great pity. Kanon was born into a normal family, meaning he was very wealthy. Yet he couldn't do anything. This meant he couldn't see anything around him. He couldn't go anywhere he wanted. People thought he was helpless. But Kanon didn't like this at all. Because of this environment, Kanon began to feel a little depressed. He couldn't concentrate on anything. One day, Kanon's maid took him to meet someone. Kanon asked who she was taking him to. The maid told him, "You're going to meet a magic tutor who will teach you magic. Her name is Jenny." Kanon said, "Why do you want to teach me magic? Even if I learned magic, I couldn't travel anywhere. I would always need someone to go anywhere." But Kanon's maid told him that Kanon had been told since birth that Kanon possessed the power of border magic, and also possessed the border crest. This means that Kanon's border magic is many times more powerful than a normal magician's. Therefore, it would be foolish to waste such talent. Therefore, Kanon should learn magic. This sparks a little interest in learning magic in her as well. Despite her reluctance, Kanon agrees and is taken to Jenny. Jenny first introduces herself and then shares a border magic spell with Kanon. Kanon is asked to try casting the spell. Kanon has never seen a magic trick or tried to cast a magic spell, so she doesn't know how. But Jenny says, "Just recite the spell. The border magic within you will cast itself." Kanon uses the words Jenny was telling her. Suddenly, a water ball appears, but Kanon cannot see it. So Kanon asks what happened. But Jenny was very impressed with Kanon's talent. She tells him, "Your spell generated a small water wall that's exactly the size of an eye." For a moment, Jenny thought she might have said something wrong. Kanon doesn't have eyes, so such things could make him even more depressed. Jenny also knew what kind of a person Kanon was. He didn't like to meet or talk to anyone because everyone talked about his eyes and looked at him with helplessness. But when Jenny said this, it was the exact opposite. Kanon doesn't have eyes, yet a glow was visible on his face. Jenny had told Kanon from the beginning that anything could be done with his magic. The water ball created by the spell Kanon just used was exactly the size of an eye. Kanon wondered if there was a magic existing in the world that could create eyes for herself. Just thinking about this, Kanon felt a different level of motivation. Jenny, after all, is a magic tutor. She wouldn't come every day to teach Kanon magic. She gave him some of her spells, which Kanon would practice for a week, and once he mastered them, Jenny would come and teach him the next magic. She told Kanon that he would have to master it, to which Kanon agreed, after which Jenny also. Generally speaking, Kanon's interest should only be in magic, but the thought of getting his eyes back had changed his entire world. His mind was constantly revolving around the thought that he should be prepared for when he finally regains his sight and can see everything. Now his interest was awakening in everything. He was even interested in the food he used to eat. He now asked his maid about every little thing he touched, and his maid explained everything in detail. He was also happy that his master was taking an interest in everything. It was time for Kanon to take a new lesson. Besides magic, he was being matched with tutors for other subjects as well. The teacher Kanon met now would teach him about history and other subjects. Upon meeting him, Kanon first welcomes him and asks about the Holy Night Stir. Kanon was blind, and we already know from the world story that some people have such abilities, disabilities. They lose something in childhood and are then considered the reincarnation of a hero. Whatever this story is, it began after the Holy Night Stir. That's why Kanon was asking about him. Kanon's maid felt that perhaps it wouldn't be right to talk about him. But Kanon says, "No, I want to know everything about the stir." Kanon's teacher tells him the whole story. A long time ago, there was a battle between good and evil. The Holy Night Stir fought against evil. In that battle, he lost a leg and an arm. Since then, whenever a warrior was born who achieved something great, he was born with some kind of disability. Therefore, it is said that they were all reincarnations of the Holy Night Star. The same is said in Kanon's case, but Kanon doesn't believe this. In his opinion, such things can only hold him back. If he thinks he is a reincarnation of some famous person, it will only prevent him from moving forward. Therefore, Kanon believes that the magic he has received is his own, and that it can only be increased through practice. Kanon has now increased his practice even more. Kanon had nothing to do before, but now he has a mission. He has started learning to divide the water balls that Jenny taught him to create. He is doing this because it allows him to increase the durability of his magic and also to learn to perfectly control his border magic. This would also have the advantage of allowing her to know when and how much magic she's used without even looking. But this is too early for Kanon. When she tried this, She succeeded somewhat, but then she felt dizzy because her body doesn't yet have the capacity to store such a high amount of magic. Kanon's maid, Akko, picks her up and takes her back inside. Kanon regains consciousness shortly afterward, but he understands the cause of her weakness. So he tells Echo, "This isn't enough. I still need a few more things." Echo is a little misunderstanding, but she tells Kanon that she can give her whatever she needs. Kanon says that she doesn't mean it that way. If Kanon wants to increase her magic capacity, she must strengthen her body. She needs more power and more stamina. Akko thinks this can only be achieved by eating, but overeating will make Kanon sick. Therefore, they should divide the food into portions. Kanon will eat small amounts of food, but several times a day. This will give her strength. However, her stamina still needs to be improved. So Akko suggests that Kanon should practice short exercises. Since Kanon can't see, she can't play ball or run without help. Sword practice would be something that would exercise Kanon's entire body at once. Kanon liked the idea, so Akko immediately left to find a sword master who could teach. Kunon thanked her before leaving. Akko herself thanked her because Kunon was now taking an interest in everything, which made Akko very happy. However, she soon found a short master who would teach Kunon how to use his sword. There are certain techniques that utilize all the muscles in his body simultaneously. He began learning to use his sword and was slowly getting the hang of it. However, according to the short master, this skill can only be perfected through practice. Therefore, Kunon will have to keep practicing. Kunon also says that he won't add to his practice. Just then, Jenny arrives. It's time for Kunon's next lesson. Jenny is surprised to see that he's practicing so little, but Kunon tells her that if Kanon wants to become strong, he needs both knowledge and stamina. He needs to strengthen his body, which requires exercises like this. Jenny also likes this idea, but she's here to teach magic, so she tells Kanon again about the same spell she told him a week ago. She tells Kanon that she thinks normal students forget what they learned a week ago. So she tells Kanon, "Look, it's okay if you forget it. Gradually, you'll learn the magic spells." But Kanon was not happy about it. Kanon immediately used her spell and created several water balls. The amazing thing was that they all had exactly the same shape. Jenny was quite surprised. She was also very impressed, as Kanon had almost mastered the spell she taught him. And within just a week, she realized that Kanon truly had a desire to learn magic. The scene shifts to a princess named Erica, who was a little depressed. Her maid comes and asks her if she dislikes her fiancé so much that she doesn't even want to meet him. Erica replies, "No, maybe he doesn't want to meet me." Actually, Kanon and Erica's marriage has been arranged, and that too in childhood. Therefore, they understand each other well. Because of this, Erica visits Kanon's house every 2 or 3 weeks, but Kanon never welcomes her well. We've already seen how depressed Kanon used to be. She had no interest in anything, and this marriage was simply being forced by the elders. Because Kanon has the hero scar, meaning he has a path that makes him special, and Erica, on the other hand, is no ordinary girl. In a way, she's also a princess and belongs to a prominent noble family. This benefited both families. So, this marriage was arranged. But Erica feels that Kanon doesn't like her. That's why his nature is such towards Erica. That's why she doesn't want to meet him. But she had to, despite her reluctance. Well, that didn't happen today. When she arrived at Kanon's house, Kanon welcomed her. There was a smile on Kanon's face, and there was no trace of depression in sight. Erica was deeply surprised by this. She asked Kanon, "Why is your behavior so different today?" To which Kanon replies that he has found a purpose in life. He has fallen in love with magic. Therefore, he is no longer the same Kanon. Furthermore, Kanon creates a rainbow with his magic spells, which Erica admires very much. Later, they go there to visit the gardens and other places. Even though Kanon cannot see, he understands how happy Erica is with this Kanon. Kanon knows that he has hurt Erica many times. He apologizes to her for this, but Erica forgives him. In fact, she has grown to love Kanon. Today, when they leave for the first time, the joy on Erica's face was due to the fact that she will spend her life with Kanon. Otherwise, she used to be happy just because she was safe for at least 2 weeks. However, after they had said goodbye and Erica left, Kanon asked Ego why Erica was so happy this time. What could be the reason? Ego replied, "Perhaps it's because you behaved so well today. You've become a gentleman now." Kanon wondered if she could be so happy just because of her good behavior. So, if he learned this, how much happier people would be with him? Kanon said he had to learn these things now. He didn't need his new teacher for this. The teacher who was teaching him history was also tasked with teaching Kanon etiquette. This meant how to speak to people and how to behave. Nobles had to learn these things. So, Kanon asked him how he could become a perfect gentleman. Meanwhile, Kanon's magic teacher, Jenny, was becoming increasingly worried because Kanon had created 7 water balls, all in perfect shape. Furthermore, within just a week, He had made so much progress that he had created 7 water balls. He didn't get tired even after the balls. This means there's no point in teaching Kanan basic spells. He'll need to teach him some advanced magic. If he reaches the advanced level, intermediate magic is the next level. Therefore, according to Jenny, it would be appropriate for Kanan to learn that magic. But Kanan is still very young, and magic can be far more dangerous than useful. Therefore, Kanan only wants to learn. Therefore, he can't be taught any spell directly. Jenny will teach him all the spells, but will understand when to teach which spells. As much as Jenny was impressed with Kanan, she is also a little disappointed with herself. The spells Kanan learned in a week took Jenny months to learn. However, Jenny will also have to work hard because she has a lot of debt. Well, when it's time for the next lesson, she tells Kanan that she's going to teach him something new today. Kanan says he has complete faith in Jenny. Whatever she teaches him will be perfect. Kanan's behaving so well because he's already been trained by his other teacher. But the teacher didn't tell him not to use his pickup lines on any of his other teachers. Anyway, Jenny is impressed. It's time for the new lesson. Jenny tells Kanan that using the spell she taught him earlier, Kanan can create water balls. If taken to a higher level, multiple water balls can be created, either of the same shape or of different shapes. But if it's studied more advancedly, the magic spell can be broken. This was a little difficult for Kanan to grasp, so Jenny demonstrated how to cast the spell differently. She generated 2 water balls and asked Kanan to touch them. When Kanan touched them simultaneously, he discovered that one was cold and the other slightly warm. Kanan couldn't understand how this had happened, but Jenny explained that magic isn't a science that can't be changed. Rather, magic is something that can be changed. Magic was discovered this way because people learned something and tried to bend it to their own advantage. If Kanan wanted to, he could bend magic in this way to any extent, creating new spells that no one had ever created before. Kanan understood this. He immediately tried to do so. Tea was still sitting in front of them. So Kanan created a water ball, and Kanan had drunk that kind of tea many times. So, using her magic, she tried to bring that taste to the water. When Ego tasted the water ball, it really did taste similar. Jenny was very surprised by this because she had prepared the ingredients overnight and thought she would teach Kanan something, and then Kanan would have a week to think about it. But that wasn't the case. Kanan learned it in one go, but feels he hasn't fully grasped it yet. So he promises Jenny that while he couldn't learn it in a day, he will master it by the next lesson, and he will understand as many types of magic as there are ways to connect water balls with different objects. Even though today's lesson was over, Kanan had a new thing he wanted to learn. So he couldn't sleep the whole night. He held 2 apples in his hand. Both were different colors. So Kanan wanted to use his magic to identify colors, and if not colors, at least to understand what the object was. But thinking about all this made his mind go crazy. He wondered how this could be possible. The next day, while he was sitting at the table, Akko came in. She was making tea for Kanan, but Kanan kept going to the kitchen. So she asked Kanan to create some hot water with her magic. When Kanan did this and sent the water ball towards the spot, it touched some apples placed in the middle. During this slight delay, Kanan noticed the colors. But this was only for a short time. So Kanan suddenly yelled that he could see. Hearing this, Ego was shocked. She told Kanan that if he was joking, he might get a beating for this. To which Kanan replied that he couldn't see, but he did notice something for a while. Now, Kanan did get a little beaten up here. But later, Ego asked what this meant. Kanan explained that he could see colors using his magic. Ego said, "Okay, so tell me what color are these apples?" Kanan picked up an apple and said it was green, but it was red. Kanan didn't know the names of colors, so Ego said, "Okay, so now you actually pick up a green apple." Kanan picks up a different color, which is actually green. Ego asks how many apples are in that basket. Kanan, using his magic, observes that there are 3 red apples and 2 green apples. This astonished Akko because, even though Kanan can't see colors, he can recognize colors through magic and thus define objects. Ego later told Kanan's father about this. He was also very impressed. Ego says that Kanan can't see everything perfectly, but through magic he can understand what an object is, and if it is clearly a particular color, Kanan can also tell what color it is. Kanan has also begun to recognize these as well. By simply clicking on the links to pictures in the encyclopedia, Kanan can understand the color of the picture and how much of each color is used. For example, Kanan can also learn about different animals. In fact, he's slowly starting to learn. Kanan's father was very happy and impressed with this. He thanked Ego and also relieved her of her duties. Ego is a normal maid, but a boy like Kanan needed a maid who could take care of him throughout the day. Kanan can't see anything, so he needed to be monitored during the day. That's why they called Ego. But now Kanan can see his surroundings. This means he won't have as many problems, so Ego won't have to work so hard anymore. But Akko loves her work, so she tells Kanan's father that she has to stick to this job for now. Kanan is constantly learning many things at once. Therefore, it wouldn't be right to suddenly change his environment. Kanan's father praises Ego and says, "You're really passionate about your work." But Ego says, "If you increase my salary by 150 rupees instead of a compliment, I'll be happier." Kanan gradually increased his knowledge in this way. One day, while in the garden with Ego, He was teaching him how to create a water ball using the same spell. This time, he created a much larger water ball. It was also red. He explained that the larger he enlarges the water ball, the more clearly he can see the color. This means that if an object is very large, it becomes easier for Kanan to tell its color. While he was saying this, his father, his mother, and his older brother arrived. Kanan couldn't see them yet, but he had sensed their presence. So, when Kanan's help called out Kanan's name, Kanan turned to her and used some of his pickup lines. In other words, he was saying, "Even though I can't see you through my magic, I can tell how beautiful you really are." After creating these pickup lines, Kanan had forgotten that he had also created a water ball, which was very large and needed to be constantly controlled with his magic. Consequently, the water ball exploded, and Ego and Kanan were completely covered in water that was horribly red and looked exactly like blood. However, to defuse the situation, Kanan finishes his pickup line, but he was completely covered in the red border. This caused his mother to panic and faint on the spot. His father was furious at this, but he couldn't shout at the law, so he scolded Ego and declared that his salary wouldn't be increased. Jenny, meanwhile, was watching all this from a distance. She wasn't surprised or angry by this incident. In fact, she was deeply impressed by Kanan's progress. It hadn't occurred to her before, but now she's thinking that perhaps Kanan is truly special. Until now, she'd only read about such progress in books. Only those whose future is destined to become a sorcerer can achieve such rapid progress. Sorcerer is used to describe people who reach the highest honors in any field of magic. When someone achieves something truly remarkable in the field of magic, they're called a sorcerer. Kanan is still a long way from that status. He still has a lot to learn. The scene shifts to 2 years later. Kanan has learned a lot, but the scene first cuts to his father, who is calling his eldest son, Rhoda, Kanan's older brother, and explaining things to him. Kanan's father has decided that Kanan needs to go to a magic academy because he needs a degree. But as we know, Kanan can't see, so this won't be easy for him. So he's calling Rhoda and telling him that he needs to take care of Kanan, who is also attending the same academy. Rhoda was initially a little hesitant to agree to this because, many years ago, while taking Kanan out, Kanan accidentally slipped and fell. Rhoda felt he couldn't take care of his younger brother, believing he wasn't worthy. He constantly blamed himself for that. But today, he's presented with an opportunity. This time, he doesn't want to repeat his previous mistake. So, he promises his father that he will take full care of Kanan. The scene shifts back to Kanan, who is currently practicing a new type of magic. When Ego asks him what kind of magic it is, Kanan tells him that it can tell someone's fortune, meaning what will happen to them in the future. We can see this through this magic. Hearing this, Ago asks, "Then can you tell me if I can get married?" Actually, her mother used to say that she should get married soon. Otherwise, once she's old enough, she won't be able to get married. But Kanan replies, "That's not the case at all. If you announce now that you're getting married, there will be a line waiting for you, and a few people will join the line after watching this video." Kanan learned this kind of talk from the same teacher who is training her to be a gentleman. That teacher's name is Philora, and she is also impressed with Kanan's progress, as Kanan has changed so much. Later, Kanan is told that she has a meeting with her father the next day. He means he wants to discuss something important with her, but it's the next day, so there's no need to think about it right now. But the same thought is lingering in Kanan's mind. One night, when he couldn't sleep, he went for a walk in his garden with Akko. It was very cold outside, so he created some warm water balls. When Akko touched them, they were not only enough to ward off the cold, but they were also incredibly soft. She demanded that Kanan make her a bed of similar water balls, to which Kanan agreed, but she was still wondering why her father wanted to meet her the next day. Could she have made another mistake? Ago replied that it wasn't like that. Since the incident 2 years ago, the one with the red bottle, Kanan has been careful not to make any mistakes, which is why she hasn't made any mistakes to date. There were a couple of mistakes that Ago wanted to make, but they didn't happen, and now Kanan will probably be going to the Magic Academy. Well, the next day, we see that Kanan's brother came to pick him up. As they were leaving the corridor, Kanan's brother asked him, "Can I hold your hand? Do you have any problems walking?" He was saying this because he had to change routes frequently, but Kanan explained that he had no problem seeing anything. He couldn't see things, but he could remember things and routes. Furthermore, through his magic, he could tell how close an object was to him. This also allowed him to determine routes and when to turn in which direction. However, Kanan's brother's reaction to this was a little different. So Kanan asked him, "Did I do something wrong?" To which his brother replied, "No, you didn't do anything wrong. I'm just very impressed that you don't need anyone's help anymore. Before, you couldn't get anywhere without someone else's support." Well, they arrive at their father's, where their mother is also there, where Kanan is told why she was called there. She is to be sent to the Magic Academy. However, Kanan refuses to do so. He doesn't go, meaning he doesn't have to go to the Magic Academy. He's already done all the studying he needs at home. Kanan has already studied everything that will be taught there, and if there's anything he hasn't learned yet, he'll learn it at home. Living with other people isn't necessary. In fact, Kanan doesn't want anyone to get into trouble because of him. Now, Kanan's father could have agreed to this. In his opinion, if Kanan doesn't want to go to the academy, it should be accepted. The king has given permission, so even if Kanan doesn't go to the academy, it won't make any difference. Kanan has a significant advantage over the others, but Kanan's father wants something different. He wants Kanan to go to the academy. Now Kanan feels like he might have made a mistake, which is why his father is sending him there. Therefore, he should apologize. But when he went to apologize, asking if it was all because of his expenses, his father said, "It's nothing like that. You're just making up stories." This led to an argument between them, with Kanan apologizing and his father trying to reason with him. Soon, both realized it was just a misunderstanding. Kanan's father said he had no problem with it. If Kanan didn't want to go, he could, but it would cause problems for Erica in the future. It was already decided that their marriage was inevitable. Once they were married, others might tell Erica that her husband didn't have a degree, meaning he was illiterate. No matter how talented Kanan was, he needed to have a document stating that he had studied. This was one of the things Kanan absolutely didn't want to happen. So he agreed to attend the academy. Kanan had already left. However, Kanan's father stopped Kanan's older brother, Rhoda, for 2 minutes and explained that he would need to pay special attention to Kanan there, because there were many nobles from other families at the school. Therefore, Kanan might face some problems due to jealousy and other issues. He agreed. The next day, we see Kanan tell Erica that he was going to attend her school. However, Kanan's father had already told him that he wouldn't be attending the academy for long because there were exams. Passing these exams allowed him to advance to the next level or the next class. These exams were conducted very frequently. Students who wanted to study there comfortably could do so, but those who want to get out quickly can easily clear those exams. Kanan liked this. While Kanan was talking to Erica, he apologized a little, saying there might be some problems at school. Many kids would feel jealous of Kanan, which is normal because Kanan and Erica are getting married. But Erica says, "No, nothing like that will happen." To which Kanan replies, "That probably means you're not famous there," which Erica finds insulting. Anyway, Kanan can't see what she looks like, and even if he could, he wouldn't choose Erica because the other options Kanan had were 1,000 times better than Erica. And you know that. Erica says, "That's not the reason. She'll find out the reason later." Well, the next day, when they were about to leave, Kanan had arrived with a completely new look. He wanted to portray himself as cool so that no one would think that Erica liked the clone under duress. The simple reason is that, like the rest of the N series, he also needs more vibes, and to project them, he needed some good look. They had just said goodbye to everyone and left. But on the way, Kanan applied border layers to his car's tires to prevent it from shaking too much. This is what his brother praises him for, because the way Kanan thinks about magic, he won't have any problem finding work in the future. They were just talking about this. Kanan's brother asked him if he was feeling scared, because this was the first time he was going so far away from home. To which Kanan replied that he was excited to meet everyone. Not only can he not see, but he's about to enter the outside world for the first time. This will definitely be a bit challenging. Rhoda was thinking about how much his brother had truly changed. He wasn't like this before, but that's a good thing. Kanan tells Rhoda that he always knew Rhoda was still sad about not being able to save Kanan that day. But it wasn't his fault. In a short while, they arrived at the academy. Erica greeted them as soon as they got out of the car. Seeing Kanan's new look, she told him, "You look very nice." Kanan replied, "I can't see you, but I can tell from your voice how beautiful you look." They continued their banter for a while. Finally, it was Kanan's turn to enter the academy. But he stopped at the door because he had noticed a lot of people inside through his magic. Well, he paused to think that if he had come here before, he might have panicked and fled, but now he's changed. Anyway, it would take another hour for them to get in. During this time, Kanan's teacher is introduced. His name is Cast, and he's a little worried about Kanan because he's heard that Kanan is a bit shy and prone to depression because he can't see. Therefore, he'll have to take extra care of Kanan. She was worried about how she would care for a depressed and shy boy. But when Kanan entered, she was surprised because all the girls looking at him were talking about him. This meant he couldn't be depressed at all. And when she saw Kanan herself, she didn't believe what she'd heard was true. Kanan had told her 15-20 pickup lines during their first meeting. She's a little impressed, but she can't show it because the school is probably equipped with CCTV cameras. Just then, the bell rings, signaling the start of classes. Erica and Rhoda leave, as he's in a higher class than Kanan. Kanan will also be there soon if he passes his exams quickly. Kanan already has an exam lined up for him. Arriving in the exam room, Kanan tells Cass that only after passing this exam can he take another exam, and that once he passes all the exams, he'll receive his certificate. Cast replies, "Yes, that's true, but there are some changes. If you fail any one exam, you'll have to wait a month and focus on your studies again. It's simple. Failing means you haven't focused on your studies, and you'll have to spend at least a month understanding the subject." According to Kanan, this is absolutely correct. But the cast says that there are some expectations for you. Our exams are arranged at different times, but your exams will all be arranged together. This means that it depends a bit on Kanan's mood as to when he wants to take each exam. The exams will be scheduled in a straight line, but the dates can be changed. Kanan asks why he has this expectation. To this, the cast says, "It's probably because of your father and the king. He told me this." And Kanan retorted, "This is nepotism. They're good friends. That doesn't mean they can change the rules." But according to the cast, there's no problem with that. But while writing his paper, he told the cast that this was really wrong. If this continued, the entire kingdom would be run solely on nepotism. While Kanan's words might have been true, the cast was beginning to suffer. Finally, when Kanan submitted the paper and cast checked it, it was revealed that all of Kanan's answers were absolutely correct. While Kanan was just rambling on, he didn't even realize he had solved the paper. She was really impressed by this. By the way, we've seen that since Kanan came to the academy, everyone is very happy with him. All the girls are talking about Kanan and comparing him to the prince. But there are some who are not happy with Kanan, and they are the men of this academy, meaning some of the other students, and their leader, Lyle, is the most arrogant. He has decided that Kanan must be taught a lesson. It's not just her eyes that can cause her to receive such high expectations, or rather, so much respect. She needs to be something special. Just after Kanan's paper is complete, she meets Erica and Rhoda during lunch break. Lyle and his friends block their way. It's here that we learn that Lyle is actually Erica's brother and the prince of this kingdom. But he doesn't like Kanan, so he stops them and starts talking about how Kanan receives such expectations and respect because of his father. Kanan really doesn't deserve this. Right now, Erica just wanted her brother to stop creating such trouble, and she and Kanan should be allowed to spend some time together, as they used to see each other every 2 weeks. Now, with the academy, at least they'd be able to spend time together every day. When Erica said this to her brother, she was very close to Kanan. Because of this, Kanan noticed that whoever was in front of him either didn't like Erica very much or was just creating trouble. So Kanan immediately used his previously learned spell, which transformed all the water around him into tiny water walls and began to flow towards Kanan. The water walls were so small that people couldn't notice them. Kanan simply touched them directly to Lyle's pants. When no one noticed it even after a while, Kanan asked everyone where the tap was coming from. Only then did people realize. Lyle was deeply embarrassed by this. But how could he convince anyone that Kanan had done all this? So he had to flee with his friends. Kanan's older brother Rhoda had already realized that Kanan had done all this. This will cause him more problems in the future. He shouldn't mess around like this unnecessarily, but Kanan is a bit too playful. He deserves whatever happens next. Kanan tells him that it's okay, he was bothering them anyway, and now, to avoid further trouble, his older brother says he's hungry. They should go to the canteen. There they find delicious sandwiches, which Kanan and Erica were happily talking about. But Rhoda is worried about how he'll explain to his father what happened. Erica, supporting Kanan, says, "It's okay, what's done is done." Meanwhile, Lyle is seething with anger. He wants revenge. However, even after a few days, Lyle hasn't done anything wrong, meaning he hasn't done anything to get revenge on Kanan. So Kanan has forgotten about it. For now, we see Kanan practicing a new technique. Jenny told him he could turn his water balls into ice and give them texture. Kanan was currently creating a water ball and shaping it into an apple. This isn't easy. So Jenny tells him not to pressure himself. He'll learn it gradually. Anyway, he should focus on his final exams. This reveals that in the past few days, Kanan has passed all his remaining exams. He's now in Erica and Rhoda's class. This was a lot of speed for Kanan, but he cleared all his exams, so no one can say anything to him. Now by passing his final exams, he'll receive his degree and his studies will be over. Finally, the day has come for his exams. He arrives at his school, where Rhoda sees Kanan repeatedly touching the horse they rode there. He's pulling the cart. Rhoda doesn't understand this, as Kanan doesn't do this often. He's been with the horse for a long time. Rhoda asks him, and Kanan explains that he's taking a sample of the horse. This makes a very strange sense, but it wasn't. He was just trying to feel the texture of a living thing. He didn't know how to explain this to Rhoda, so he said he was just taking a sample. Rhoda didn't understand anyway, so he ignored it. Just then, Erica arrives, overjoyed to see Kanan. However, Kanan tells her that he'll miss her because it's their final day, meaning they won't be able to meet like this every day at school. Erica says, "It's okay. Today isn't over yet. They have the whole day ahead of them. They'll spend it together." However, the bell had rung, so they had to leave for class. Arriving there, Kanan realized that for the first time, he would be sitting with all the students. Kanan's exams were held in a very fast pace. No other student had ever been given such a fast pace. Kanan used to take those exams alone and pass them. But now he was in a class with a lot of students. Miss Cast was also there. Kanan, noticing her voice, said, "You handle so many children alone. It's a really challenging job." Miss Cast replied, "She's starting to like it, and Kanan needn't worry. He'll give her his full attention." And Erica was very surprised by this, because when Kanan enrolled here and it was her first day, the miscast were very worried about who she was. But now it's clear that the two have grown very close. Kanan says it was bound to happen. In fact, during Kanan's exams, they would talk to each other. Kanan would write while Miscast would tell Kanan about herself. Kanan is a good conversationalist, which allowed him to extract a lot of information from Miscast. Regarding her personal life, he tells his friends that Miscast never thought she would become a teacher at a magic academy. But the man she used to bring along studied there. Miscast also began studying there. They passed 2 exams, but the man failed. He then stayed on for a while longer. Meanwhile, Miscast decided they should take the job. It would allow them to be together. And that's how Miscast became a teacher. Rhoda and Erica were delighted that Kanan and her teacher were so close. But this is a bit strange because teachers don't tell children such things. Just then, other children in the class came over and started saying hello to Kanan, and Kanan, being an extrovert himself, stepped forward and started talking to them. However, later, he tells Rhoda and Erica that all these children are coming up and saying hello to me first. Doesn't that mean you don't have any friends here? Erica replies, that's not the case. She had told everyone not to disturb Kanan and her, as she was going to spend the entire day with Kanan. The final exam was about to begin. Meanwhile, we also see Lyle standing outside in the corridor. Some of his friends tell him that the exam is about to start. Lyle replies that it's more important for him to think about something else right now. But his friends tell him that if he fails, he'll have to continue the entire class again. This means you'll have to stay here for a few more months. Hearing this, Lyle realized that it was indeed important to pay attention in class. He had to pass, or he would fall behind Erica. Lyle is the 6th prince, meaning he's the king's 6th son, and Erica is the 9th daughter, meaning she's the 9th daughter. I'm not saying all this to tell you about the king's stamina, but to make you think that if Erica surpasses Lyle, he would surely be angry. That's why his nature was such that he even tried to mess with Kanan. For now, he heads towards the classroom. We see that Erica is currently talking to Kanan. She was saying, I'll drop you off at your table. All the students are supposed to sit according to their roll numbers. That's why she was saying this. But then Lyle interrupted. Erica thought he was going to create some trouble. But before he could say anything, Kanan quickly grabbed his hand and started telling Rhoda that he couldn't say hello properly last time. Lyle was still angry and perhaps even a little embarrassed by this. So he told Kanan, you shouldn't have held my hand like that. But Kanan replied, why? We're brothers-in-law. In Hindi, he was implying a brother-in-law relationship. Before Lyle's little mind could fully process this, Kanan caressed his hand and said, your skin texture is so nice. You're definitely very handsome. I wish I could see you. Lyle's face turned red. He blushed and asked Kanan, what are you saying? Meanwhile, we learned a little about Lyle. Even though Lyle is the 6th prince, he's not exactly happy about this. He may be capable, but the respect he receives is due to his status as the 6th prince. People don't actually respect him. Because of this, Lyle's behavior changes slightly. People treat him with respect, thinking he's the 6th prince. Therefore, he also speaks in a conventional manner, like the 6th prince. However, whatever Kanan just said at the rally was from the heart. Because of this, Lyle suddenly blushed at the praise and asked Erica, what is he saying? Explain to him. He shouldn't behave like this. But Erica laughed. The other children laughed too, because they had seen Lyle blush for the first time. Then Kanan said, your voice is so nice. I was beginning to think he was trying to make fun of her. Just then, Miscast announced that it was time for the exam, so everyone should sit down on their benches. Everyone sat down and started to read their papers. The results came in shortly after. Everyone was eager to see if they had passed, but all their children had passed. Now everyone would choose their own path and decide which way to go. Kanan and Rhoda were also heading back to their mansion. Meanwhile, Kanan said goodbye to everyone and told Miscast that he needn't worry too much. If he couldn't find someone to marry, he would arrange for his older brother to marry him. Rhoda replied that he wouldn't do anything like that. Meanwhile, Lyle was watching Kanan leave from the window. He had a smile on his face and decided to talk to people a little more politely. Perhaps he had a change of heart. Kanan returned home and continued his classes. He was still learning new things from Miss Jenny, but now it was time for Kanan to take a test. So she asks Kanan to use rapid magic spells. First, she tells him to create magic balls. Kanan had already grouped 10 magic balls together. After which, she tells him to add colors and textures to them. Kanan quickly created one, and then said he wanted to show Jenny something else. So he created a water ball and gave it the texture of a bird. It could also fly. Seeing this, Jenny fell to her knees. Not for anything wrong, but out of amazement. The kind of technique Kanan used takes years to master. I mean, this thing isn't like a texture. The master didn't just give the water ball the shape of a bird. It actually looked like a giant bird. And the same thing about textures that Jenny taught Kanan applies to ice magic. It's not that difficult to shape ice into something, but Kanan is giving water a texture that must be continuously maintained with magic. Kanan did this so perfectly that Jenny was astonished. Later, during the break, when it was time for tea, Jenny told Kanan that she needed to discuss something personal with her. Ago left, and Jenny said that she couldn't teach Kanan anymore. She had nothing left. Kanan had already surpassed her in everything. Kanan briefly thought it was because Jenny had taught her normal skills. Why would anyone teach high-level skills for the same salary? So he said that if that was the case, he could ask his father to increase her salary. But Jenny insisted that it was not the case at all, but the opposite. Her salary was already very high, and she doesn't believe she's taught Kanan so much. And now she has nothing left. Kanan replies that this isn't the case. If Jenny hadn't taught her everything, Kanan wouldn't have learned so much so quickly. This means Jenny is a very good teacher. However, Jenny has decided that she's quitting because she has nothing left to teach. Later, she says goodbye to Kanan and leaves. On the way, we see her promising herself that she'll work hard. She's learned a lot from Kanan. She realizes that the amount of magic she's learned isn't her limit. She can work even harder. By then, Kanan will have already surpassed her by a great deal. But she's not going to give up. Meanwhile, Kanan is just telling Ago that Jenny has left. Ego explains that not only has Jenny left, but Flora has also resigned. According to her, Kanan has become a perfect flirting boy. She doesn't need to teach him anything anymore. So even if she stayed, she wouldn't be able to teach Kanan anything. However, Flora didn't come to say goodbye to Kanan. So Kanan decides to write her a thank you letter for everything she taught him. Ego suggests adding that if she sees a good, handsome man, she should look for Ego. Ego also wants to get married now. She doesn't want to remain single like this. Kanan replies, "That means you'll be gone too." Ego's response was the same. She also has nothing left to teach Kanan. She means Kanan can take care of herself now. What's the need for her? But Kanan says, "Don't do that." Everyone is moving away from her. However, Ego says that Kanan must now move forward. He has learned as much as he should, according to his level. Now he needs to advance a little. She also mentioned this to Kanan's father, so a meeting is called in the evening. Kanan now needs an advanced tutor who can teach him more powerful magic spells. Rhoda says that she has such a tutor in mind, but she doesn't know whether he will come or not. Hearing this, their mother said, "Are you talking about Jano?" Rhoda replied, "Yes, I am talking about him." However, Kanan's father began to say that this was very difficult. Even though he was a noble and a friend of the king himself, demanding this from the king wouldn't be easy. Jano is a very handsome and amazing sorcerer. He's a royal sorcerer. Therefore, teaching him this skill would be very difficult. Nevertheless, Kanan's father decided to write a letter. The letter was sent directly to the kingdom's castle. The letter was first sent to the Grand Sorcerer, under whose jurisdiction all the royal sorcerers reside. The one who delivered the letter was Erica's older sister. When the Grand Sorcerer read the letter and learned about Kanan's information, he realized that he was the son of a noble, so making such a demand was completely unreasonable. No one can get such a big thing just because of their high reputation and being a friend of the king. Furthermore, Erica's older sister also recently revealed that she knows about Kanan. This also displeased the Grand Sorcerer, who believes Kanan is trying to gain all this through his position. But later, when he tried to find out more details about Kanan and read some of Kanan's files, which contain information about Kanan's past, he realized that Kanan is no ordinary child. The story begins with Kunan and his dad inside a buggy. His dad explains, "You've been invited by the Majesty, so I think you could easily get admission there." He explains, "But I thought the chances were pretty slim. So, I want to know why they've invited you." He also explains that the scholars were very interested in you, in a way. Then his dad asks, "What magic have you learned? Tell me in advance, in case you insult me after going there." Kunan begins demonstrating his water magic. He transforms the water into a cat. And seeing this, even his dad is quite surprised. He thinks it doesn't look like water magic at all. And Kun starts saying that if I put a little more emotion into it, who knows, it might start behaving like a real cat. His dad also starts praising him a lot. And Kun also says that he still wants to learn a lot more. That's why he wants to enroll. And then his dad starts saying, "You know, I've been very fond of cats since childhood." And Kunan starts saying, "If that's the case, you should have kept a cat at home. And you're quite rich." And his dad starts saying, "I could have done that, but because of you, I didn't keep a cat because it could have caused you problems." And Kunan starts saying, "Don't worry about me. I mean, I can see what's in front of me with my magic." Then Dad explains the real reason I didn't get involved with your mother is because your mother doesn't like cats, but dogs. And now Kun finally finds out, and he starts saying, "I've heard from a lot of people that we can raise a cat outside the house, and if you want, you can do that." His dad also really likes his word. Finally, he's reached the castle, and then a lady arrives, and Kunona introduces herself to her in a very nice way. His dad says, "Let me tell you, this is the second princess." Hearing this, Kunona becomes even more surprised and starts talking even more nicely. Then, after seeing the cat, Ryasa says, "I like the cat very much." But Kun says, "It's not a cat." Then, he ends his magic right there, and the girl is even more surprised by this. Then, he says, "I feel like you shouldn't take him away yet, and he shouldn't go to the Black Tower yet." He starts to leave. And on the way, Nakun asks him a very difficult question about magic. He then starts saying, "You can ask some more questions. I don't know the answers to all of them. But all I can tell you is that in this country, there are 7 princes and 10 princesses. In other kingdoms, the eldest brother is made king. But here, it's not like that. The one with the most achievements is made the next king. Crone starts explaining, I've heard about it, in a way. Suddenly, he starts to feel a tremendous amount of power from within the Black Tower, and he thinks there must be a lot of amazing scholars inside that tower. That's why he's feeling so powerful. Then, Rias tells him, you shouldn't listen to me, meaning, you shouldn't do anything wrong here. And then Kunon starts doing some really weird things there. He starts skating, and Rias starts asking, what are you trying to do here? And Kunon starts explaining that he had put ice cubes under his shoes. Because of this, he is unable to perform at this place. Hearing this, Riasa is quite impressed and starts telling him that he too has to do all these things. He then tells him that he should not sign any papers here, and also that he should not say anything unnecessary that could be used against him, and that he should think carefully before saying anything. Then she tells him that she also wants to enjoy herself. After this, both of them start enjoying themselves there. Everyone is surprised to see them and wonders, what is he doing? After this, a royal guard follows them and catches him after a lot of effort, and both of them start apologizing to him for their actions. Then we are shown a scene of Crone's father, and he starts telling them that there is a lot of noise outside, and the man starts explaining that a new kid has arrived and is being scolded a lot. Hearing this, his dad realizes who it could be. Finally, Kunon meets the Grand Master. Riasa takes him there, and he is completely amazed by the Grand Master's powers because he was on an insane level compared to him. Furthermore, the Grand Master easily recognizes his water caste, which has reached 2 stars. Then, the Grand Master starts explaining to him, and Crone says, you're right, but I don't know about it. After all, what is it? Then he starts explaining about all the different types of scholars, like fire, water, earth, light, and darkness. He goes and the final fall happens, and what happens is, brother, we'll find out later. Ranks go from 1 star to 5, and yours is currently ranked 2nd, and Kunona is seen much lower. The Grand Master also starts saying that this type of power is found in many people, and overall, it's a fairly common level. For now, Kunona starts saying, you seem very powerful to me. Who knows, you might have 3 stars. The Grand Master tells him, no, you're a little wrong. I mean, I have 4 stars. Hearing this, the person is quite surprised, and then he asks, tell me, can stars cause any problems with magic? I mean, someone with more stars can learn more magic, while someone with fewer stars can learn less magic. And the teacher begins to explain that I can't say much about it, but because of the magic star, different types of magic are found in people. And then the headmaster takes Crone to a place where there are many other students and tells him that he will have to take a test here. Riasa explains, Master, you don't need to take a test. This means that the kid is really amazing. I've seen his magic. But even then, the teacher continues to explain that it's obvious that we'll have to take a test. And some people there were talking about him saying, this guy has a hero scar, and I want to see his magic, in a way. And then Conan also begins to think that he has to perform some amazing magic here. And then a guy comes in and uses water magic and creates a lot of bubbles. Just like Kron is able to create Charp, he literally creates a lot. The headmaster tells Kron, you have to beat this and you have to create more bubbles in a certain way. Then he remembers his teacher's words about how magic can not only create water, but also manipulate the surrounding water. He starts thinking, I feel like I can manipulate other people's magic. And then he starts manipulating his opponent's magic. He's able to move his magic a little bit, but he can't bring it to his side at all. Kun also thinks that this guy is really amazing, and he works really hard. Finally, he succeeds in moving 2 bubbles, and they both start coming towards Kron. Then, the headmaster tells him to stop his magic and says, tell me the truth. You did a great job. But Kron doesn't like it much because he was only able to move 2 bubbles in a way. He thinks, I still have a lot to learn. And Victor, the one with whom he was competing, starts saying, I want to keep him with me. I want to teach him a little about magic. And then Riasa starts saying, you can't do that at all. Your girlfriend just left you, and you're depressed, and how are you going to teach her? And they start arguing about this. And Krona asks his master, did I pass? And his teacher starts telling him, you still have a lot more tests to take. Then he creates a huge bubble, which the Grand Master jumps on top of. He explains, I deliberately tried to make it soft so you can enjoy it. The Grand Master says, well, tell me what other things you can do. He then tells him, I'm not going to let you go anywhere today. You're going to show me your magic all day. And Kron says, but I just had to go somewhere with my friend. And he's talking about Mirka, in a way. And then Riasa starts saying, Kron, I think you should show me the same magic you showed me in the beginning. She's talking about that cat magic and says, you should turn me into a human. Krona tries it, and he creates Echo, his maid, and says, I tried to turn her into one last time, but her movements were pretty bad that time. Victor asks, can you fix her movements and make her like a human? Krona says, yes, you're right, I can do that. Then he tries to make her fly, which doesn't work out that well. The Grand Master tells him, you should try it once, and he starts flying her, and it feels like a ghost is flying in the air. And then suddenly, a maid comes to the window and they see the ghost. In a way, after seeing the maid and that thing, the prisoner becomes very frightened. In a way, she feels like she's a ghost, so she screams very loudly. Then, suddenly the royal guards arrive, and Kanan has to apologize again. It was evening, and Kanan again asks if he's passed or not. The Grandmaster tells him, "Brother, there's no need to ask. Obviously, you've passed." He tells him that he should come back tomorrow to learn. Then, he again asks, "Can you teach me this? Tell me, what do you want to do with this magic in the future? In other words, what do you want to achieve through magic?" He begins to explain, "I have only one goal. I want to create my own eyes through my magic so that I can see the entire world with my eyes." Hearing this, the Grandmaster is very impressed and says, "Brother, your motive is amazing, but you'll have to work hard for it." And then Kunon finally goes home, and his father is there. After seeing Kunon, he becomes very angry and starts telling him, "Brother, I've heard 2 complaints about you on your first day. And finally, which new student does this?" Kunon begins to apologize profusely to his dad, saying, "I won't do it again." Kunon explains, "You have magic and you're responsible for it. You shouldn't use it to scare or harm anyone, but you should only use it to help people in a way. No matter who tells you to trouble someone, you shouldn't do that at all with your magic." And then, just then, her dad finally leaves, saying goodbye to Kunon. Kunon had to go on a date with Marika. Riasana was also there, and she also said goodbye to Kunon's dad. Riasana tells Kunon, "Kunon, I feel like you're forgetting something. You have to go to your fiancé, and I feel like you're already quite late." He tells him, "You should use your magic and use it to get out of here. You can go faster that way." Then, he creates a huge balloon so he can go to Rias, meaning to America. Riasana tells Kunon to sit on it, but Kunon refuses, explaining, "I promised my princess that I will be here. I'll just sit on it with him." And Riyasa starts saying, "You shouldn't think too much about all this stuff, and you should just sit on it quietly." He tells me, "You don't have to be scared at all, and besides, I don't have a boyfriend who will be offended by what I say or feel bad for me." And then, he uses magic, uses that ball, and brother makes a huge jump and lands right near the princess's house, and the landing was much more dangerous without them. Let me tell you this much, and then suddenly the royal guard arrives again and starts telling them, "You know what mistake you're making today?" He gets very angry at them both, and both of them start apologizing profusely. Then we're shown a scene of America getting ready to look her best in front of Kunon, and she's thinking about what to wear, and she's quite happy. Then we're shown a scene of the princess, who is still very nervous, and her maid is very nice to her. He starts explaining that there's no need to be afraid of this at all. The reason for this was that Marika's first raid was with Kunon, in a way. Then, their guards come and tell them that Kunon has finally arrived. Hearing this, Princess literally doesn't stop and runs away because the prisoner was quite excited. After this, Kunon finally meets Princess and starts flirting with her, saying, "I think you're more beautiful than the moon." Raj delivers a couple of such dialogues. And after hearing his lines, Princess also seems quite taken with the situation. Finally, their date begins, and it's a dinner date of sorts. Marika asks Kurun about his day. Kurun explains that his day was quite good. A friend passed his test, and he also got a chance to visit the Black Tower. He explains that he'll see his teacher very soon, and that America is all about. Kurun becomes very happy after hearing all this. Kurun starts talking a little weirdly, talking about Princess, saying, "I've heard a lot of stories about your childhood." Princess was quite excited at first, but now she becomes a little nervous after hearing everything. I started talking about food. He started talking about other things, about Kunon and this whole thing. Seeing this, even the maid started wondering, what's happened to this guy all of a sudden? He was talking so sweetly, but suddenly where did he take the topic and all this stuff? Princess wasn't feeling too good either, but she didn't want to show it out loud, and then Kunon changed again. He started flirting with Princess again, in a way. He held her hand and started telling her, "We're on a dinner date, so I feel like I should have a loving dinner with you, and once we get married, we'll always have dinner like this, and we'll talk a lot." After hearing this, Princess literally became very happy. She starts blushing profusely, and her maid is also quite happy, thinking, "This guy is really amazing." After this, we are shown a scene at home where Princess Na is very excited, and she really enjoyed it. Like a date. After this, we are finally shown a scene at Kunon's house, where the guy has just arrived home. Maidna is washing clothes and asks Kron for help. Kunon uses his magic to create a lot of bubbles. Then Echo starts saying, "Master, you've been inside the house ever since you came back, so why haven't you come out?" Kun explains that he received a report and is trying to do some research on it. Echo explains, "You know, you're not that old yet, so you should enjoy yourself a little." And then, Kunona sits down with her and starts talking about random things. Echo also asks, "You haven't found a teacher yet, so when will you find one?" Then we're shown a scene of Riasa going into a room to look for someone. In that room, we are shown this man, and he seemed quite powerful. His aura was quite distinct, and when he was entering, some unusual music was playing. He starts saying, "Brother, are you crazy? Why did you wake me up? It was just about time for me to sleep." The person who came to call him says, "The Grand Master is calling you. I think you should leave." Then, again, a scene of Kron is shown saying, "I think I'll meet my master very soon today." Then, Echo starts saying, "Did you know that a parcel had arrived for you? And who knows, It might have written about your teacher. Krone's parcel had his teacher's name written on it, and literally, that teacher was him. He was the famous scholar her brother and her mother were talking about. And hearing this, the maid becomes very happy, and Kunon also becomes very happy. Literally, her maid is saying, I think I should wear my new uniform right now. I can't go in front of him like this. And Kunon starts telling her, don't get too excited. Stop acting like this. And the maid doesn't seem to care. She says, I'm just thinking about my master right now. She's talking about the teacher right now. Let me tell you this much. After this, we are shown a scene of America and Ryasa, who were on their way to the card because they had to go to Kunan's house. Then, on the way, America's sister appears and they both start teasing America, saying, I heard that your prince is becoming very famous. Ryasa doesn't react much there. But deep down inside, she feels a little bad about Marika. Then she goes and sits in the card where Karan's teacher was also sitting. Then, finally, they go to Karan's house, where Marika is the first to get off the card. Karan had once again started talking to Princess in a very nice way. He was flirting, in a way. The teacher sitting inside thinks, what type of guy is this guy? I mean, I really want to be his teacher. I don't see any potential in him at all. And then, finally, John emerges from the guards. And upon seeing him, the maid becomes very excited and thinks he's really amazing. And after seeing him, the maid becomes very serious, realizing that he's literally insane. It's on a different level. The aura inside him was feeling different. John starts saying, I feel like you're my student. And Kunon says, you're right. I also feel like you're my teacher. And then Kunon starts saying, what can I call you in a way? And Master says, just don't call me Master John. And he starts saying, I'm here only to test your potential, to see if you're useful or not. Or else I'm wasting my time. And I feel like I'm getting a little interested in you. And then they all sit down at the table, and Kron starts praising America profusely. Overall, he starts flirting with him, and Johnny tells him, brother, I'm sitting here first. I mean, look at me. I'm your teacher. He then explains, first of all, we're going to talk about magic here. He then asks, do you know how to make spells? And Kron starts explaining that for that, we don't need a magic circle. And to create a magic circle, we don't need powers. And to create a compound spell, a magic circle is divided into several sections. And Johnny says, I feel really amazing, you're really amazing. Then he starts explaining how many sections he can handle in one way. And Krone says, I can do about 30. And he says, but it takes a lot of hard work to get there. Literally, Johnny says, he can create at least 25 circles in one way. And he can do a lot more than that, so let me tell you this much. And Kun says, this is amazing, and can you show me now? Hearing this, Johnny gets very angry and says, first, you have to show your magic. After this, he starts remembering things from the past and says, now I know why the other teachers were so interested in this kid. He goes on to say, I think this kid is really amazing. Corona was still requesting a lot for his magic, but the teacher started refusing. The teacher wanted Kun to show his magic, but Corona started requesting a lot, and the teacher reluctantly had to show his magic. He explains, I'm going to create a wall in front of you, and you have to destroy the wall with your magic and come towards me. He then goes on to say, I've heard a lot about your bubble ban, so can you create it with magic? You can do it, and Chrono does it. As soon as John touches him, he literally feels like he's in heaven. He literally falls asleep right there. After that, he just falls asleep immediately. He's there, and the others, without even noticing, are quite surprised, wondering how someone can fall asleep so quickly. Then, Chrono checks the wall using his power. He knew it was a very small. After that, he quietly sits down with Princess and says, we should spend some more time together. Princess says, I think you should break the wall first. Crone tells him, I'll take it easy later. It had been 2 to 2.5 hours, and Johnny finally opens his eyes and starts saying, brother, is it all yours? You haven't even broken the wall yet. I think you've given up. Crone tells him, no, that's not the case. I'll break the wall right now. And then Kunona starts using bubble magic and starts melting the ball. He knew the ball was very strong, but if a bubble is used, the ball will melt quite easily. Seeing this intelligence, even the teacher is quite surprised and says, you've really done a great job, and all that dirt was going to dissolve in the water. You know, the way we wash clothes, all the dirt disappears with the help of detergent. So, something similar was going to work here. Jewel then asks, you have so many spells, but why did you choose this spell? Kurun explains, I was thinking of an easy way to destroy it. So, this was the easiest spell, so I used it. Johnny explains, to be honest, you chose the perfect spell here. Meaning, the scholar should choose the easiest way to complete his work. And then Quran starts explaining that this means that from today on, you are ready to become my teacher. And Johnny starts explaining, brother, you should not say all this at all. I will say that from today on, I am becoming your teacher. Meaning, I am forced to become one. He puts on a little attitude and shows it off. And then, literally, Bhai Kunona again starts flirting with Marika a lot and starts ignoring the teacher. Seeing this, the teacher gets very angry and says, brother, are you crazy? You should look at me and see what you're doing. Then John Lee starts telling her, I think, Princess, you should work harder right now because Kun will become a very dangerous source of power, and there will be a line of girls waiting for him. You'll have to become as powerful as Crone or even compete with him so he can defeat you in a way. Hearing this, Marika becomes a little sad and thinks, well, the teacher wasn't wrong after all. He starts telling her, I'll have to do something better now. Crone tells her, Princess, you don't need to be scared like this. No matter what, I'll always be with you. He also tells his teacher, Teacher, don't scare me like this. Literally, you know what? He says, you don't know how to talk to girls properly, so you probably don't have a girlfriend. Hearing this, Brother John Lee is literally devastated. He thinks, Brother, what did he say? The teacher, quite angrily, asks, Do you even know what you just said? The teacher replies, Yes, I said that you don't have a girlfriend, and that's true, in a way. Then, a scene is shown of her alone in America, where she was a little sad after returning home, thinking about how much she was going to achieve, and how if she didn't work hard, she would be left behind, and she didn't want that at all. So, this episode finally ends here. So, let us know in the comments section how you liked today's video. If you liked it, please like it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hype it. So, see you all in the next video. Until then, goodbye.